All right, you asked for it, so you got it. It's a Halloween special edition of Professor of Rock, and today we're counting down my top 8 most haunting, spine-chilling tracks from the rock era. And we're going to get a little creepy here, so brace yourselves on this episode. We're going to tell stories of sonic spookers, dark confessions, backmasking messages, and deathly warnings, including one track that was born from a father's twisted bedtime stories about a man-eating monster that haunted his son for decades. Even as an adult, he couldn't escape these nightmares. The only way that he solved it was through writing a song about it, and we're going to talk about it. Then there's a song that was so traumatizing for the lead singer that he broke down into hysterics after he finished singing his vocals. It was all caught on tape. The producer just kept rolling it. I've also got the most controversial musician I've ever interviewed on this channel. When I released our interview about 3 or 4 years ago, I lost 5,000 subscribers overnight, a couple hours. Hoping it doesn't happen again. And lastly, the most chilling song ever released was not only banned, for a time it was against the law to play it. Let's get into it. Hey, music junkies. Let's count down the most chilling haunters of the rock era. We'll get right into it. Starting with number 8, I've got Blue Öyster Cult with their iconic 1976 hit, Don't Fear the Reaper.
Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Baby, take my hand.
In the mid-70s, BOC guitarist and songwriter Buck Dharma was navigating a really tough period. He was grappling with a lifelong congenital heart condition, and he found himself intensely confronting his own mortality at just 28 years of age, pondering what would happen if he died young. Thoughts that most people his age rarely face head on, and he was compelled to reflect deeply on life and death at this moment. One restless night alone in his New York apartment, Dharma picked up his guitar and began experimenting with simple chords, and what emerged was the song's haunting melody and lyrics.
All of times have come.
Born from a personal meditation really on love's enduring power over death. Far from a morbid fantasy, he wrote Don't Fear the Reaper as a comforting message for his wife, imagining that their powerful bond would not be broken by death. As Dharma explained, he actually talked about this in many interviews, including the one that I did with him. The core message is really straightforward here. Death is inevitable, but love, it transcends it. So there's no need to fear the Reaper. Now, the track was recorded during the 1976 sessions for BOC's breakthrough album Agents of Fortune at New York's Record Plant Studios. The band's goal was a more polished production, and they definitely achieved it here. One of the great albums of the 70s. Dharma handled lead vocals and guitar solos with the band layering in those signature ethereal harmonies through multi-tracking, creating the song's hypnotic, chilling vibe. But oh man, when the song hit the airwaves, its brooding melody and ambiguous lyrics, especially the line mentioning Romeo and Juliet, sparked immediate debate. A lot of people thought it was satanic and evil. Many listeners and religious figures misinterpreted the references to the star-crossed lovers as an endorsement of Pax, S-U-I-C-I-D-E, Pax. I can't say it on here. Became so widespread that Dharma and the band had to repeatedly clarify its true meaning in interviews for decades to come. This sensational misreading created a dark mystique around the track that clashed dramatically with its actual, more romantic intention. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, the song became a massive hit. It went to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 in November of '76, marking BOC's commercial peak and helping to launch the band into the arenas. What Dharma had written as a personal meditation on love transcending death ultimately became one of rock's most misunderstood and enduring masterpieces. Here's a quick clip from my interview with them.
Romeo and Juliet are together in eternity.
But that's the best example I could find of, if there is something, that they're okay, And of course, everybody thinks that there's more out there, or they would like to think that there's more out there. I have no personal knowledge of what happens when we cease breathing.
I did read an interview that you gave one time where you had said that at the time you were thinking about it yourself, the inevitability of death maybe if you were to die young or something like that. Is there
Right,
anything to
right.
that?
Yes, I was diagnosed with a irregular heart rhythm. And of course, you think, okay, what if I'm not going to live long or something?
Yeah.
So it turns out I'm still here. But yeah, you think about it. I really enjoy drawing breath.
All right, in at number 7, I've got a good one. It's Electric Light Orchestra, ELO, with Fire on High. So as far back as 1968, Jeff Lynne had incorporated backward messages into his recordings, inspired by his admiration for the Beatles, of course. In the wake of their 1974 album El Dorado, this squeaky clean band, ELO, they face accusations that the record contained satanic messages. Some U.S. religious groups were insisting the band was embedding reverse messages summoning the Antichrist. That was what they were suggesting. So Jeff Lynne decided to fight fire with fire. During the grueling 1975 Musicland studio sessions in Munich, fresh off ELO's transatlantic pivot from U.S. blues rock, Lynne was working on Fire on High. It was going to be the opening track for their Face the Music album. He enlisted a 40-piece orchestra for a multi-sectional grandeur, inspired by Rodgers and Hammerstein's theatrical drama. Jeff Lynne recounted forcing endless takes on the track's eerie violin trills and fire-crackling effects, likening it to building a sonic cathedral in a battlefield. But then he did something deliberate. Get this, he intentionally embedded a backward message into the song's spooky intro, and it's really spooky. Drummer Bev Bevan's gravelly baritone delivered the message in a single haunted take. Said the music is reversible, but time is not. Turn back, turn back, turn back.
The music is reversible, but time...
Now, this was a direct sarcastic jab at their fundamentalist critics. Lynne later quipped in interviews that it was his way of telling them that they were wasting their time. Jeff later emphasized that it was hard enough to come up with lyrics going forward without creating meaningful backward messages, right?
Turn back. Turn back.
Fire on High wasn't just a deep cut, though. It was the opening salvo for ELO's Face the Music tour. Instead of starting with a hit single, the band would plunge the arena into darkness and let this track's eerie backward intro and dramatic orchestral swells build suspense. For a 1975 audience, hearing the strange reverse sounds before being blasted by the full force of the band and orchestra, it was an overwhelming piece of pure rock theater that only ELO could do. The beautiful irony of Fire on High is that Jeff Lynne's sarcastic response to the backward masking hysteria, it kept fueling the flames of controversy that he was mocking. By the early 80s, the panic had reached fever pitch. In fact, in 1981, Christian DJ Michael Mills alleged that Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven contained hidden satanic messages. 5 radio DJs were actually fired for encouraging listeners to search for backward messages. Believe that. Arkansas and California introduced legislation with California's 1983 bill deeming undisclosed backmasking an invasion of privacy. Now, through it all, Lynne's tongue-in-cheek rebellion stood strong as a testament to rock's defiance against moral panic. What started as a simple instrumental track became a cultural flashpoint, showing that sometimes the best way to fight absurdity is with absurdity. The song that warned time is not reversible became timeless in and of itself, a forward-thinking statement wrapped in backward vocals. In the end, Jeff Lynne got the last laugh. His critics spent countless hours rewinding tapes and searching for demonic secrets or backmasking, only to find messages telling them exactly what he thought of their crusade. Man, it's a chilling track, though. All right, coming in number 6 position on the countdown, I got a triple dose of Black Sabbath. From their debut album, Black Sabbath, it's Black Sabbath, the song from Black Sabbath. I mean, the 2 words were so controversial, the band named themselves, their album, and their title track, the song, after it. In 1968, During Birmingham's post-hippie occult boom, bassist Geezer Butler was devouring Aleister Crowley tomes and the Dennis Wheatley novels like The Devil Rides Out. After Ozzy Osbourne gave him a 16th century book about black magic, Butler read it and then placed it on a shelf before going to sleep. Now, he claims that he woke in the middle of the night to see a towering black shape with eyes of fire at the front of his bed. Its creepy grin whispering temptations before vanishing in a chill gust.
Which points at me.
So after the figure disappeared, Butler discovered that the book had disappeared with it, was gone. This terror, which Butler tied to bad vibes from dabbling in spiritualism, would become the inspiration for the song. He told Ozzy about the horrifying vision, which directly inspired the opening lines, "What is this that stands before me? Figure in black, which points at me."
That stands before me.
Guitarist Tony Iommi wanted to create a sound as scary as a horror film. He built the song's main three-note riff around a musical interval known as the tritone, or the devil in the music. This dissonant and unsettling interval was famously discouraged in medieval church music for its perceived evil quality. By consciously using this forbidden sound drawn from Gustav Holst's Mars, the bringer of war, Tony Iommi musically engineered the feeling of dread and created the sonic blueprint for heavy metal right then and there. On October 16, 1969, with manager Tony Hall fronting just 96 pounds for studio time, Sabbath crammed their self-titled debut into a single sweat-drenched day at London's Regent Sound. They channeled Birmingham's factory despair into doomy sludge and equipment failures all over the place. Butler recalled the chaos. Ozzy's vocals echoed like a banshee in the stairwell bathroom for reverb, while Iommi's riff captured the track's creeping dread, without overdubs, actually. Ozzy howled the narration in a single haunted take. So the band and their record label fully embraced their dark image by choosing to release the album on Friday the 13th. February 13, 1970 to be exact. This was a calculated marketing move to align the release with the day that's most associated with bad luck and bad vibes and bad stuff. When you think about it, the combination of the ominous date, the storm sound effects, the tolling bell, and of course the frightening album cover, and the bone-chilling song itself created a perfect storm of dread. But in actuality, the song was intended as an anti-occult cautionary tale. However, Butler insisted it was a warning against black magic, not an endorsement of it. But the song's dark demon imagery backfired spectacularly. Despite Butler's intentions, the track sparked 1970s hysteria that the band could never escape. For example, a German promoter offered an extra sacrificial victim plane ticket for their gig. Weird. U.S. evangelicals branded it devil summoning, leading to bonfires of debut LPs. They burned them. Now, Ozzy laughed off the nutters. He actually kind of leaned into it, hailing Satan at shows, but the songs, they typecast the band, fueling bands and locking in Ozzy's Prince of Darkness persona for decades to come. Ironically, what was meant to be a warning against the occult became the very thing that branded them as its ambassadors. And it's a creepy song, let's be sure. All right, so in at number 5, it's a first for this channel. From their 1994 self-titled album, it's Korn with Daddy.
I'll be your daddy.
Now, this one has a chilling story, but a happy ending, so stay with me here. In the mid-90s, frontman Jonathan Davis was battling a host of repressed memories and began confronting horrific truth from his childhood. During therapy sessions, he remembered being abused at age 3 by a female family friend who used to babysit him. The whispered threats like, if you tell anyone, I'll take your life, those had been buried deep in his psyche for years.
Looking so pretty.
Davis, in a tearful confession, described the violation as a secret poison that shattered his innocence. His unprotected father, a blues musician, became the lyrical scapegoat for generational shame. Said Davis, and I quote, "When I was a kid, I was being abused by somebody else, and I went to my parents and told them about it, and they thought I was lying. I was joking around. They didn't believe it was happening to their son. I don't really like to talk about that song. This is as much as I've ever talked about it," end of quote. Now, the final 4 minutes of Daddy, they're not a performance. They are the audio of lead singer Jonathan Davis having a complete emotional collapse in the studio. Producer Ross Robinson kept the tape rolling as Davis, having just sung about his traumatic childhood experience, broke down into real hysterical sobs. The rest of the band, who had no idea that this was coming, can be heard putting down their instruments in confusion. Now, this raw, unplanned moment of agony that was kept on the album, creating one of the most disturbing but authentic endings to a song in history. Guitarist James Monkey Schaefer later recounted the band's stunned silence turning to collective tears, with drummer David Silveria hugging Jonathan post-take, describing it as group therapy gone nuclear. Davis reflected on it as the moment Korn evolved from rage machines to emotional truth tellers, bonding them through shared catharsis. According to producer Ross Robinson, the visceral power of Daddy became the emotional blueprint for the nu metal movement, providing the emotional core for countless bands that followed thereafter. Because of the immense emotional toll, Daddy, it's almost never played live. The band strictly refused to perform it for over a decade until 2015. Here's a twist for you. While Jonathan Davis was exercising his demons through brutal honesty and raw emotion, his bandmate, guitarist Brian Head Welch, was spiraling deeper into his own darkness. That is until his dramatic conversion to Christianity in 2005. It sent shockwaves through the metal community for sure. Welch had spent over a decade deeply immersed in the dark end of the spectrum of the rock lifestyle. His conversion was a radical decision driven by a desire to escape the destructive lifestyle and be a better father to his young daughter. Now, Welch publicly quit Korn, announcing that he had chosen the Lord Jesus Christ as his Savior. This sudden departure led to him being baptized in the Jordan River and focusing on his new life, which involved solo music and public ministry, making him one of the most unexpected Christian figures in hard rock and metal, for sure. While he initially embraced his new identity with an overzealous intensity, his faith deepened over time, and in a move that surprised many, Welch rejoined Korn in 2013, a decision he defended as an opportunity to be a light in the darkness for fans struggling with similar issues. As for Jonathan Davis, he has said of his struggle with depression and anxiety that came from the aforementioned traumas. In a recent interview, he said, and I quote, "It does get better. It takes time." This interview with the U-Rock Foundation is where Davis talks about his experiences dealing with depression and recovering from trauma. He also talks briefly about his struggles with substance abuse before getting professional help and how recovery is still a work in progress. I'll actually link to the interview below. It's really good. All right, so we've made it to number 4, and I'm taking a chance here with this one for sure. But hear me out. Just listen to the whole thing if you would. For the 4th spot on the countdown, I'm featuring a track from the most controversial musician that I've ever reviewed on this channel, for sure. I'm talking about Ted Nugent. The song is an album cut, Venom Soup. So just real quick, I interviewed Ted a few years back. It was actually 4 years ago, I think. After I released the interview, I lost 5,000 subscribers overnight, and I got a lot of hateful comments as well. And all we did was talk about music. Look, there's no doubt Ted is a divisive guy, but here's the thing. If you've watched this channel, you know that this is a politics-free zone. I always focus on the music. It's always been about the music and the stories behind the songs. If that gets into politics, because that's what the song's about, then therefore. But I've interviewed musicians across the political spectrum, and whether or not I disagree with their views or agree with them, it really doesn't matter, because in the end, it's the music that matters and always has. And funny enough, Ted Nugent and Tom Morello, who are on the complete opposite sides of the political spectrum, they're dear friends. And it shows that our relationships are more than who we vote for. So with that said, let's talk music. By 1978, Ted Nugent was riding a tidal wave of success. Double Live Gonzo had blown minds in '76, and Cat Scratch Fever made him one of the biggest arena rock acts in America. The Motor City Madman was selling out venues coast to coast with his guitar pyrotechnics and over-the-top stage antics.
Got you on a stranglehold, baby. Can't scratch fever.
So when it came time to record Weekend Warriors, expectations were sky high. Recorded and released in 1978, Weekend Warriors showcased Ted's signature gonzo guitar work across 10 tracks of hard-charging rock. And closing out side one was a track that showed Ted diving into some really dark territory. The sinister power ballad, Venom Soup. Now this isn't your typical Nugent barn burner. Compared to Ted's usual fare of 3-chord party rockers, Venom Soup, it goes deeper and heavier musically and thematically. It's a power ballad in the truest sense, giving listeners a breather from the balls-out rock Ted was known for. Lyrically, Venom Soup paints this vivid picture of a demonic woman who's equal parts seductive and terrifying. She's described as the devil's sister and the demon's right arm, serving up her poisonous brew to anyone who crosses her path. The narrator is caught in this twisted dynamic where he's simultaneously repulsed but also drawn to her supernatural power. His weapon, which is his saber, it can't touch her because she's got some kind of dark magic charm protecting her. There's this medieval horror vibe running through the whole track, with castles falling and terror in her eyes. But then, despite the dread and darkness, the narrator confesses that he feels they'll make love tonight. Okay. It's a collision of desire and doom, attraction and revulsion. The imagery is gothic as well as theatrical. Now, what makes Venom Soup such a killer addition to this countdown is how fully Ted commits to the horror show. I mean, this is arena rock meeting Vincent Price, with supernatural seduction and weird imagery and an inescapable sense of dark fate closing in. It's Nuge getting dark and kind of weird, and it's a cool track. It's very haunting. Now, Venom Soup is definitely not the first track that fans think of when they hear Ted Nugent's name. It's going to be Cat Scratch Fever or Stranglehold. A lot of people call this Stranglehold Part 2. I mean, for those who know Weekend Warriors, this deep cut stands out for exactly what it is. A poisonous brew that really burns. It really is like Stranglehold Volume 2, and it's a track you should listen to. All right, we got 3 more left, including a really great story with Alice Cooper and the scariest song ever recorded. Let's do it. All right, heading into the number 3 spot, I've got The Cure with their chilling disintegration track, Lullaby. Oh, I love the song. Robert Smith has vividly recounted how Lullaby sprang from a haunting, recurring nightmare that plagued him since childhood. I mean, it's a massive spider creature slowly devouring him whole, leaving him helpless and terrified of sleep itself. The origins of this terror, they trace back to disturbing stories that his father would tell him as a child when he couldn't sleep. Not the best idea. Instead of comforting tales of happy endings, his father invented grisly lullabies that often featured a cannibalistic Spider-Man who would come and eat him alive. Smith explained, and I quote, "It was my father. He used to tell me these stories. He'd just make them up, and they'd have horrible endings." Smith also said the dream was so ingrained in him that it evolved from a boyhood fear into a teenage obsession. This arachnophobic vision eventually transformed his personal insomnia into a hypnotic goth rock mantra. Now, during the grueling disintegration sessions that happened in '88, Smith was approaching his 30th birthday, deeply depressed and convinced that the band's career was ending. So he set out to make a dark, monumental, and decidedly uncommercial record. His last will and testament of rock, is what he said. Exhausted from recording over 20 discarded tracks and clashing with drummer Boris Williams, Robert Smith channeled his continuing insomnia into Lullaby. In one anecdote, Smith revealed waking from another spider dream and immediately scrawling the lyrics, writing them on a single page that alternated between soothing verses and chilling threats, like you won't wake up at all. This solitary process amid the studio's dark and obsessive atmosphere turned Lullaby into a sort of therapeutic exorcism, if you will. With bassist Simon Gallup later joking, it felt like Robert Smith's subconscious crawling out of the speakers. Now, the music video for this one, of course directed by Tim Pope, it's a seriously surreal horror show. It completely brings the song and his recurring nightmare to life. It depicts Robert Smith in bed being haunted by and eventually being eaten alive by a giant shadowy spider. The imagery, it's claustrophobic and nightmarish, darkly beautiful for me. In a surprising twist, so Lullaby was released as the album's lead single and became The Cure's highest charting UK hit ever. It reached number 5, better than Friday I'm in Love.
I don't care about you, it's Friday, I'm in love.
Here in the US, it stalled out at number 74 on the Billboard Hot 100, but it did manage a number 31 ranking on the US dance charts, go figure. Robert Smith later said that after recording Lullaby, the spider dreams, they finally stopped altogether. After years of being consumed by this fear, he consumed it instead, transforming his personal terror into therapy and a work of art that resonated with millions.
The Spider-Man is having you for dinner tonight.
The little boy who couldn't sleep because of his father's scary stories grew up to write the most haunting lullaby in rock history, in my opinion. And in this process, he finally put the monster in his closet to rest. Sometimes you have to face your fears, even head on, even if it means letting them devour you first. We've almost made it to number 1. We got 2 left, and at the bridesmaid position, good old number 2. I've got the king of shock rock himself, Alice Cooper, with Cold Ethel.
I miss Cold Ethel and a skeleton kiss.
Now, we all know that Alice Cooper built his career on pushing taboos, and man, Cold Ethel definitely did that. Now, it comes from his 1975 concept album, Welcome to My Nightmare. The song is a disturbingly upbeat rock number about getting close with a corpse. That's what everyone initially thought, but they were wrong. I mean, you got lines like, she's cool in bed, she ought to be, because Ethel's dead.
In bed, there she ought to be, 'cause Ethel's dead.
Those hit with this rollicking riff and almost doo-wop hooks. It was a controversial move for sure, even for Alice Cooper.
Last night, making love by the refrigerator light.
And while the surface level shock is a lot to stomach, Cold Ethel is actually a key part of the Welcome to My Nightmare concept album, which tells the story of a character named Stephen and his descent into alcohol-fueled madness.
Your eyes, Cold Ethel, you're my paradise.
The name Ethel, that's a direct pun on ethyl alcohol. So the cold and lifeless lover that Stephen embraces in the song, that's really just a dark metaphor for his destructive love affair with alcohol.
Ethel, come and freeze me with your charm.
Yeah, a love affair with alcohol, a partner that offers only the cold comfort of the grave, not a corpse. Again, like I said, there's nuance here. Now, during performances of Cold Ethel on the legendary 1975 to 1976 Nightmare Tour, Alice Cooper would dance a romantic waltz with a scantily clad life-size female mannequin. He would serenade the doll, he would kiss it, and he'd hurl its limp body around the stage.
It's true, Cold Ethel, I'm stuck on you.
Cooper's onstage act that also included mock beheadings, which along with Cold Ethel, it caught the attention of Vice columnist Ann Landers. It led to a public feud. The back and forth was one of the most entertaining clashes between rock and mainstream America in the 70s. Now, Landers, whose syndicated column reached millions of parents daily, took aim at Alice Cooper, calling his stunts and morbid subject matter a corrupting influence on American youth. She warned that Alice Cooper's brand of shock rock was leading teens down a very dark path. Now, Ann Landers, that was actually the pen name for several ghostwriters, including Ruth Crowley, it was in the 40s, and then Eppie Lederer. She took over in the 50s, and beyond that, Eppie's twin sister Pauline was behind the column Dear Abby. Eppie's column was more goody two-shoes than controversial. She's actually the one that started the urban legend that evil people were putting poison or razor blades in taffy and candy at Halloween, and then even mistakenly gave false legal advice for something to do with marriage. Attacking Alice was another one of those controversial takes, though. However, Alice Cooper laughed the whole thing off as playful horror. He wrote to Anne, or Eppie, and said, "I'm really sorry you found that old song of mine crude and offensive. Actually, Cold Ethel is just a harmless number about, well, I can't say the word on here, but it rhymes with necrophilia, okay? Yeah, Alice said it's a harmless number about necrophilia. You know what I mean?" He went on to say, and I quote, "The point I want to make is that the kids are not bothered by this. Their parents are. The kids see the song in gruesome antics like with the guillotine for exactly what it is, a satire, done with a sense of humor to a rock and roll beat. They get that. Kids know I'm harmless. It's their parents that make me out to be some kind of monster." Cooper maintained that Landers was missing the entire point of his shows and his music. Meant to be campy, horror entertainment, not literal endorsements of violence or depravity. Of course, in the end, Alice Cooper got the last laugh. Years later, he mocked the exchange in a 1999 interview, joking that despite Landers' dire warnings about his corrupting influence, there had never been a big breakout of that word that I can't say on here, right? That there was no big breakout of necrophilia among his fans. The whole moral panic showed exactly what Alice Cooper had been saying all along. Kids understood that it was theater, and parents didn't. Cold Ethel and the controversy surrounding it perfectly encapsulated Cooper's entire philosophy. Take society's deepest taboos, wrap them in a catchy hook, watch the adults lose their minds while the kids all get the joke. All right, here we are. We've made it to our number one, our Halloween number one, that is. For today's chart topper, which I think is the scariest song ever, gotta go with Bloodrock's 1971 epic, DOA, as in Dead on Arrival. I know we've covered this song before, but I'm gonna give you some new info today.
Is flowing down my finger.
DOA was shockingly born from real-world tragedy. This actually happened. Guitarist Lee Pickens witnessed a friend's small plane crash in Fort Worth. Their pilot acquaintance plummeted shortly after takeoff. And the wreckage, the smoke, and the screams, it left a permanent mark on everyone who saw it, who was there. The horror of that moment stayed with Pickens, haunting him long after the emergency crews had cleared the scene.
And here's something in the air.
The band channeled this nightmare into first-person lyrics about a crash survivor clinging to his dying girlfriend, fading into desperate pleas over wailing organs and sirens. Oh, it's haunting.
Something in the air.
This 8.5-minute rock trauma became a proto-metal requiem that went far beyond anything from the previous decade, the 60s. They'd never attempted anything like this, any artist. This was unflinching. It was visceral. The song's core drama unfolds as a man awakens in a blood-soaked stretcher, his girlfriend's body beside him, both en route to the hospital.
Well, I knew at such a distant stare.
His injuries are fatal. The sheets are red and moist where I'm lying. God in heaven, teach me how to die. It's absolutely chilling. During the recording session, Bloodrock layered in siren effects meant to evoke emergency responders at a crash site.
Heaven, teach me how to die.
The results were hyper-realistic. Keyboardist Steve Hill later explained that a lot of stations didn't play the track because people were pulling the cars off to the side of the road thinking there was an ambulance coming up behind them. That's how real it was. A lot of them were pulling their cars over because they couldn't believe what they were hearing as well. This auditory intensity elevated DOA from heavy psych jam to psychological thriller, the worst of the worst, blending Deep Purple style riffs with wailing organs and narrative brutality. The full track's progression, from serene flight to blood-curdling fade, is what made it a cursed hit.
Red and moist where I'm lying.
What I've never mentioned on here was the personal toll that it took on lead singer Jim Rutledge, just from singing the song. It was immense. He tried to put himself in the position of what it would be like to be dying. The emotion is captured, though, in that final recording, giving the fictional horror a harrowing dose of reality. Upon its 1971 release, DOA was deemed too morbid for airwaves. The FCC banned it for a time and threatened radio stations who dared to play it. It was actually outlawed. Had everyone up in arms. But the controversy only fueled its infamy, helping it peak at number 36 despite the outright ban. It was a top 40 hit.
And here's something in the air.
DOA became a blueprint for horror and rock, but it also became a cautionary tale about the cost of authenticity. The song was born from witnessing real death and channeling genuine grief into art. It's like Faces of Death for music. But it ultimately typecast Bloodrock as gore merchants, stalling their career just as they were breaking through. And they had some really good stuff. Despite Capitol Records' push and the song's chart success, the band never escaped the shadow of that blood-soaked stretcher. They released several more albums, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could match the terrifying impact of DOA. It was the most terrifying one-hit wonder ever, and it really destroyed their career. Well, there you have it. My picks for the top 8 most haunting, scary songs for Halloween. There were 4 or 5 others that almost made the cut. What do you think? What are your top? What do you think of these songs? What are your memories of these songs? Man, DOA, truly. I don't think anything will ever top DOA. Do you have one that's better? Let me know. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.